boys and girls, welcome to Everyday Math Lesson 6.4, Mixed Addition and Subtraction Stories. The materials that you'll need today, notebook paper, pencil, your math journal, a template, and then if you have this diagram page, that would be helpful. If you don't have this page, that's okay, but you might want to make some diagrams like this in order to solve some of our problems. Let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is go over our math boxes from the previous lesson. So if you can open up your math journal to page 140, if you're noticing that you have any mistakes, please fix those with your pencil and eraser. So for question number 1, which of these is unlikely to happen? Circle the sentence. And the best one would be, you will grow 5 inches while you sleep tonight. For question number 2, measure the line segment in both inches and centimeters. So I'm going to measure it. Since mine is already on centimeters, I'll measure it first in centimeters. I'm going to line up my 0, and I can see that mine is 8 centimeters. And then if I turn my ruler, so mine is kind of backwards, but I can still try to measure it the best that I can. I'm going to line up my 0, and I can see that it is 3 inches long on that side as well. For question 3, Denise picked 16 tulips and 4 daffodils. How many flowers did she pick in all? So I plugged in my information, my 16 and my 4, which gave me the number model. 16 plus 4 equals 20. So 20 flowers. For question 4, how many dots are in this 3 by 5 array? So you could have counted by 3s, you could have counted by 5s, and you should have had 15. For question 5, list the numbers in order. So I had 4, 4, 4, 5, 6, 6, 10. And which number occurs the most often? You should have picked 4 because 4 happened 3 different times. For question 6, continue the count. So we ended at 316 and it looks like I was counting by 2s each time. So then I have 318, 320, 322, 324, 326, and 328. So double check that you have your page correct before moving on to the next slide. So for the next slide, if you can either use notebook paper or a whiteboard and marker if available. If the speed is ever too fast, pause as often as needed. So for this first question, I want you to think about some things that you like to collect. Do you have some ideas? Some things that sometimes people like to collect, they might like to collect postcards, maybe stickers, rocks. You maybe have some other ideas of things that you like to collect too. We're going to think about that later on in our lesson today. Another thing we're going to look at is look for the combinations that will make it easier to solve the problem. So if I have 43 plus 5 plus 7, what part should I do first? If you're thinking that we should do 43 plus 7 first, because 43 plus 7 would get us to 50, and then plus 5 would bring us to 55. Could you press pause and solve these two problems, and then press play when you're ready to check? All right, second graders, in this middle problem, I chose to think about 15 plus 5, which I know is 20, and then 29 plus 1 is 30. 20 plus 30 equals 50. And in this last problem, you could really do it any way that you would like. So maybe I want to start with 6 plus 8, and I know that 6 plus 8 is 14. And then if I think, well, 14 plus 10 would bring me to 24, but it's going to be 1 less than that. So my answer would be 23. But this one you probably could pick either way that you wanted to solve for that. So now going back to some things that people collect. People also might collect coins. So in today's lesson, we're going to see some problems that look like this, some number stories. So it's going to say something like, so Kobe has 5 coins, Susie has 25 coins. How many coins do they have in all? And so the number model that I would use, I would think 5 plus 25 equals, and you can either say the answer or write it on your board, but you should have 30. So Kobe and Susie have 30 coins in all. And we'll see some problems like this where you'll get to decide what you want to use for your collection. The other thing is we're going to see a variety of different types of problems. So when we're solving problems, we could use change number stories. A change number story is when we have an original number that's going to change somehow. It's either going to get smaller or larger. If it's getting smaller, we know we're subtracting. If it's getting larger, we know we're adding. So in this problem, there were 24 building blocks standing. So I would start, and you can just watch how I explain this. I would start with my 24. 6 more were added. Since 6 more were added, I know that my number should be getting bigger. So I'm thinking 24 plus 6, and I'm trying to find my end. How many total were standing? Which would be, I know 24 plus 6 equals 30. And then I can put a question mark in that box because that's what I'm trying to find out. So again, these are the start, change, end diagrams. Another diagram that we talked about is parts and total diagram. So in this one, we're going to see two different parts that we're going to add together to find the total. So Bob read 15 books. Susie read 13 books. I'm going to include that information in my two parts. How many books in total did they read? Can you press pause and play when you're ready to hear the answer? So we know that 15 plus 13 equals 28. So 28 books in all. The last diagram that we work with sometimes is this quantity difference, and this is for comparison problems. So a comparison problem involves two different quantities. It's going to involve a larger number and a smaller one, and we need to subtract to find the difference. So in this question, the monkey had 28 bananas. It ate 8 bananas. So how many did it have left? So we're trying to figure out the difference. So in this number model, I'm thinking 28 minus 8 equals, yes, 20. All right, so now let's use what we know and apply that in our math journal. So if you can open up to Math Journal page 141, I'm also going to ask that you use MathMaster page 437 if you have it available. And I'll talk about how you will use that. So you're going to choose one of the diagrams from that page to fill in the numbers and then writing our question mark for the number that you want to find. So in problems 1 and 2, you get to choose your own unit. And if you'd like, we could do problem number 1 together. So let's talk about problem number 1, and then you'll do the rest on your own. So this is what problem number 1 looks like. And I'm just going to put up a screen quick so we have a little bit more of a focus. Okay, so I chose to use marbles because marbles is something else that I like to collect. So I said Colin has 20 marbles. Fiona has 30 marbles. How many marbles do they have in all? And so I'm going to use that total part diagram. And notice how I put 20 in one part and I put 30 in the other part. Could you write down those numbers on your MathMaster page that looks like this? So you could write it right in there. I'll go back to it. And then when we're solving, so we want to figure out Colin and Fiona have how many marbles in all. I'm going to use that number model, 20 plus 30 equals, and you should say 50. So Colin and Fiona have 50 marbles in all. So now I want you to try problems 2, 3, and 4. And again, think about which of these diagrams would be the most helpful to plug in your information. Press pause and play when you're ready to check. All right, second graders, let's take a look at question number 2. And question number 2 is very similar to question number 1. And so I chose crayons, but you could have picked anything you wanted. So I'll pronounce her name. Alexa had 34 crayons. Oh, Alexi maybe had 34 crayons. He gave 12 crayons to Theo. How many crayons does, I'll just say Alex, have now? So I chose to use the start, change, end because he's starting with 34 crayons and he's giving away 12 and I'm trying to figure out the end. And so I know that 34 minus 12 equals 22. So Alex has 22 crayons. Let's look at our next one. For question number 3, Rushing Waters has 26 water slides. Last year there were only 16 water slides. How many new slides are there? So for this one, I have 26 as my top quantity, 16 as my smaller one, and I'm solving for my difference. So I have 26 minus 16 equals 10. So there are 10 new water slides. And for my last question, number 4, again, I chose to use the quantity difference. So the loop slide has 65 feet high, the tower slide is 45 feet high. How much shorter is the tower slide? So I used that number model, 65 minus 45 equals, and I should have had 20. Double check to make sure that you have your page correct before moving on to math boxes. All right, so today, if you could complete math box page 143, I did change this direction to just 3 ways for 35 cents. And then when you're all done, take a picture and add it to Seesaw. We will go over this page in our next video. Thank you. See you next time.